And we are live here at the beautiful Edison Hotel. We're in the conference room. We got the big event going on. It was packed.
Already early in the morning.
9:30 a.m. Full of people, wonderful people. I have with me here speaking wonderful people. Christos Makridis.
Yes. Yeah.
Fantastic. Great Greek guy. We were just going over a lot of stuff. Of course, I have off camera my main man here, Stephen Melnick, who you'll meet here in a little bit. But we were just talking about the project that you're working. It's opera.opera.
LivingOpera.org.
LivingOpera.org. So tell us a little bit, Christos, about LivingOpera.org and what brought you here to NFTNYC.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm like one of the most unlikely candidates for the fine arts, I think, because I have like a really technical background doing economics and engineering, and but just a couple of years ago, I started getting more into the entertainment sector, into the arts, and realizing the beauty that's out there. Opera is one of the only areas where you have the unfiltered voice. There is no auto-tune. There is no massaging of the frequencies. There is just the voice. And so people that are extremely talented are able to get that voice out. And so Living Opera was founded by Paradis, another Greek native. Fun fact is actually our fathers and our grandparents grew up in like the same area, and so. But anyways, long story short, what our vision is to really bring the fine arts out and to demonstrate that this is something that's projects, and maybe we'll go into a little bit more, is around like imagine listening to Ave Maria through virtual reality in the Sistine Chapel, where you're combining the operatic voice with VR, with digital art that paints that picture and creates experiences that really can shift the trajectory of your child, of yourself, and so we're really excited to bring the arts to a wider audience.
Well, there's no doubt, and you know, when you talk about it, it makes you feel something, you know, and that's what being around these, you know, you talk about the Sistine Chapel and the, you know, being around these opera singers, they make you feel something. And you're in this chapel and you're in the, you know, whatever it is.
No joke. I cry like when I hear it, and like I don't cry. I'm not a crier, but yeah, I mean, yeah. But it is powerful because especially when you're not expecting. We were just having dinner with a good friend last night, and Sula just started singing, and it was like I was not expecting that. I was not. So it is powerful.
It is powerful, and when you talk about now bringing in AR and VR into this, I mean, it just gets pretty exciting. Let's talk, I will touch on the VR in a minute, but how does the AR work? I mean, how does that incorporate into the people's experience that you guys are making?
Well, so I was talking off camera about just how there's these different phases that, I mean, the technological revolution goes through. And so the initial phase is literally just to like produce artwork, produce voice, and then mint NFTs around that, and to give people just the ownership over that sort of content. The second phase is then to combine that with other forms of media, and this is where the VR component comes in, where there can be this adaptive component where depending on how you like to interact, because sometimes singers, for example, they'll see the audience's reaction and there'll be that adaptive component that takes place. Now, obviously, that happens a little bit more actually in concerts than it does in like a staged opera, where usually there's a creative director that has a particular vision. But in any case, these are things that we want to embed down the road, where it allows the actual the soprano, tenor, whoever the opera singer is, to get to know the audience, to interact with them a little bit more, and then also respond a little bit accordingly. And so right now, I mean, we are at the phase of producing the actual voice component, combining it with digital art that enhances that overall experience. And then what we're moving towards is building in this virtual reality component.
Well, I mean, it's a massive project, right?
It's hard. Yeah. Can't lie about that.
How long have you guys been at it?
Well, a little over, I think, a year or so. And so we have 3 streams in Living Opera. There's one is the educational component, where we create educational materials to help students that are going through college or music conservatory, because there's just a lot of skills that are not taught in some of the music conservatories. Even just how to manage your finances. If you're doing a job in Germany, the tax rate is like 39%. Before you see anything. And so if you get a contract for $20K and then you're taxed 39%, you have to know that going in so that you have the right room and board and you just plan accordingly. And then a lot of that stuff is not always shared to students ahead of time. So we've got educational curricula, we've got a technological component, we've got a multimedia component. And what we're talking about right now is that intersection of multimedia and technology. The Living Opera app is going to are we still on?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll blink for
okay,
a second,
perfect. So the LivingOpera app, I mean, just a short story about this is that there's a lot of singers that just don't have the finances to necessarily pay $200 an hour to get a voice teacher. And so what we're trying to create, what we already have is an online community across countries. And now we want to connect them and anchor them in actual tools, a tool that will be able to, you'll be able to sing into your phone and to diagnose your voice type. What type of soprano are you? What type of tenor are you? And then once you know that, you know what music to practice. Because otherwise you get a lot of people that are like, they think that they're one thing, and it's like, I think I'm a baseball player and you should be like a basketball player. It's like, so it's the same sort of thing. You need to know your voice type before you can know what repertoire to practice.
And they have the professor, which is it's a force of nature, I can tell you, even by we just met. So tell me a little bit about that. Where are you a professor?
Arizona State University. So I love producing and building things, and the core of my research agenda is around human capital and technology. So how does technology, that we interact with each other, the way that we learn? So at ASU, for example, there's a part of the ASU called Ed Plus. It's a very large online learning component where they're using adaptive learning just to understand where does a student typically make a mistake. And so in a college algebra class, if you are forgetting like how to take partial derivatives, it might give you more practice around one end or another. So anyways, I love researching. I like seeing ideas flow into reality. And that's actually a big area of just in academia right now. Sometimes you don't see people take those ideas and necessarily operationalize it. And so one of my aspirations of the next 30, 40 years is to really produce ideas that count and that change and impact people's lives for the better.
Well, I can see how you're doing that right now. I mean, it was just thinking as you were saying all that it must be amazing to work with you there or have you as a professor, because you're actually changing the way things are done and changing the scope of the future. So.
Well, thank you. You should become a colleague there and become a brand evangelist. How much do you charge per hour? But I mean, the thing is, in universities, this is one of the big challenges, and I won't spend too much time talking about this, less of interest maybe for the audience, but the incentives are really towards publication within a narrow set of journals. And so one of my hopes for the next couple decades is that impact becomes a lot broader. Impact needs to be defined by where did you start and where are you now? What's that value added? And so just publishing a paper doesn't necessarily move the dial on technological innovation. It doesn't reduce barriers. It just is new information that's out there. So you have to do something with that information. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I try to spend a lot of time doing, is producing new ideas, but then seeing how they can be operationalized.
So you're here in New York City, beautiful New York City, wonderful weather that we have. You're in NFTNYC. I think the biggest one they've ever had.
Yeah.
What's your big objective here? What are you trying to get out of NFTNYC?
Well, there was a couple of things just kind of drew me to New York City and some of the faculty that I work with at Columbia Business School and so on. So there was a couple additional exciting objectives that just got to see people that I've known for a while. But as it relates to the conference, I think what's so exciting is that this is an entirely new world that the opera sector, the classical arts sector, just hasn't met. And this is a new audience. This is a new set of partners, because imagine combining the technical power of some of the developers out here, some of the people that actually understand what crypto is and understand how. Maybe I'll just it must have been the voice app. So yeah, one of the things that performing artists struggle a lot with is like actually knowing their voice type, because it's not obvious, and you get a lot of voice teachers that actually misclassify their students. And so actually Sula did a poll on her Instagram, and a whopping 89% have said that their voice has been misclassified at least once over their career. And so that is very damaging based off of our classification of, okay, are you a mezzo soprano, dramatic soprano, whatever you are, then we use that machine learning model to predict people's voices. And so we're in the process of designing the app. We've got the machine learning component pretty much fleshed out now with improve the accuracy even more. And what we want to move towards is a platform. This is where it intersects more with, I think, NFTNYC, is that we want to empower creators through the app so that when you are doing a job, when you are doing anything that leverages the talents within you, that you're able to publicly signal what you've done and what you know. And that way, when you do a concert, it's not, you get the ownership over that. You get the experience behind that, and you can tell the world about the positive interactions and impressions that you've created. So really, there's a lot of human capital that's left on the table and people are not capturing. We want to help capture that through this sort of app.
So it's LivingOpera.org. Wonderful guy, wonderful platform. Where do you guys go from here? What are your next, plans? Are you guys raising money?
So, I mean, we're yes to money for sure. I think one of the other thing is just strategic partners, because so Sula, for example, is going to be going to a nonprofit in just a couple of days where she's going to be on the board of, and it's an anti-human trafficking project. And so one of our broader visions is really to use the arts to bring people in. So instead of just showing people kind of like really sad images of like starving kids or something like that, our email is hello@LivingOpera.org. Or you can